SVG's Jason Dachman here with another episode of SVG SportsTech On Demand. Have the privilege of being joined by Tim Eichorst, owner over at Rush Media, one of the big players in the mobile production space. Tim, first of all, where are you coming from right now? And is everybody in your household safe and healthy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Jason. We're coming from Madison, Wisconsin, which is what I would consider to be our home base or slash headquarters, if you will. And everybody, both in the company and extended family of any employees of the company, are doing great.
Great.
You know, sequestered at home where need be, but also we have a small group of people that do come in to the office here in Madison each day for work, including myself, which is where I'm at right now.
Okay, good to hear. That's what's most important. So before we get into how you're reacting to the current situation and everything, you guys were obviously extremely busy as ever, right before all this hit. And I know spring training is a busy time for you guys. The spring season in general is a busy time. So what were some of the things that you were working on and that Rush facilities were working on prior to the lockdown?
Yeah, absolutely. The confluence of work that kind of starts the latter part of February into the third week in March with the conclusion of everything college basketball is one of the busiest times of the year, as it is for most people, not just Rush. But in our particular case, we do a lot and have done a lot with Major League Baseball and spring training and working with our regional partners, both in Florida and Arizona. So I often comment that we get to do an entire Major League Baseball season in 1 month, which is essentially what we do amongst all the teams. And then we're kind of done with baseball except for some collegiate spring sports. But, that is very heavy lifting to do that. It is hard to crew. It's hard to deal with the lack of resources in certain markets at that time of year. You do have the beginning of the college basketball tournaments coinciding and then into the NC2A. So those are also very busy times. And then as importantly, it's really kind of the beginning of soccer, professional soccer, whether it's MLS or USL. And we're very, very heavy into those markets as well. In the case of soccer, we work pretty extensively with Vista World Link down in Florida in our relationship with that. So all of those things combined, the beginning of soccer, the ending of basketball, the 5 weeks of Major League Baseball spring training, literally in our world represents anywhere from 600-700 type events.
Yeah, absolutely.
That are going on concurrently, and at a very high level. So it's very, 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 very busy time.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some soccer and some baseball back sooner than later. I know that's what we're all rooting for. But when the lockdowns started happening and when events started being postponed and canceled, how did you guys react, and what role have you played to try to continue to communicate with your clients, continue to communicate with the freelance community and your crews that are very much family for you guys? I know. What role have you played during this very, very challenging time?
Well, I guess the first one for me was particularly the spring training stuff, because on March 13th, I believe it was, we did our final games, and then we struck our truck and crews at the different facilities in Florida and Arizona. And clearly there was a lot of angst and anxiety, rightfully so, for a lot of the freelancers, a lot of the people who had done work already about getting paid, and how that could parlay into some events that were now lost, which is still a discussion that's ongoing in the industry about who's paying how much and for when and for how long. And there's different things going on out there. But I think my first phone call was talking to the leadership at the IATSE in Arizona, which we work extensively with, to make sure they understood that I'm going to be in a position to make sure that they get paid at the same level at the same time, and then certainly on their behalf and my behalf to a certain extent, understanding what the networks and what people are going to do for games that were lost. Right. Spring training. And, that has been a great relationship for me, particularly in Arizona. So I really walked away from the shutdown, if you will, or the pause, wanting to focus on labor first, anything labor, because I think that is the most important part. And it's also the part that people will care most about, to ensure that, they're going to get paid, maybe not tomorrow, maybe there are some types of delays in certain situations, because I myself am looking to get paid for stuff that, work that we've done that we haven't potentially collected a receivable on yet. But
Sure.
But labor was my number one priority post the pause here.
Yeah. Well, you got to take care of your team, right? I mean, that's what you have been providing for years and years and years, and you want to make sure those people are taken care of.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I'm curious, have you, obviously it's very early days, but when we come out on the other side of this, live production is going to look different, I'm sure, and I'm sure that there's going to be some different workflows and that type of thing. Have you guys, started to consider what the world is going to look like in terms of the compound and productions once sports resume, hopefully sooner than later again?
Yeah, absolutely. There's kind of a multi-tiered track that we've been already operating in. One is involving SVG. I was on a call with Ken yesterday on what type of policies or expectations should we have in terms of cleanliness of equipment, cleanliness of trucks, how what procedures there are to make sure that workers that are showing up have the knowledge that the environment they're coming into is safe and clean, and right down to what types of utilities or items that we need to provide on the mobile unit side. So that was a great meeting yesterday of 35 plus or more people throughout the industry that represented just about anyone in that regard. So I think that is something I've thought quite a bit about for the last couple of weeks. Is if I got a phone call tomorrow and saying, "Hey, we're back on June 10th." And obviously first question is, well, what's the mobile, cleanliness? Was it been sterilized? How do you manage all that? So I'm very happy to be a part of that group and will contribute as best I can. On
Yeah,
the
we're
other
calling
side
it
of it,
the Clean Freaks Task Force, I think.
yeah, that
That's
was my name. That's what I
yeah, I
named
love
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, was its
Love
founder,
it.
I guess.
Love it.
So, and then the second part is my opportunity here at Rush, and I think it's an opportunity for everybody, is really to kind of reinvent yourself.
Hmm.
And I know there's challenges with keeping people on full time, part time, furloughing, laying off, all those kind of things. But if if you do have the ability to work through this, at least in terms of where we're at, I think the number one priority for us is to come out looking completely different, and use innovation, different types of workflows, and that is a wonderful opportunity that's been presented ourselves. Is a lot of things that were traditionally done a certain way are no longer going to be done that way. We all know that. There's certain pockets that had already been starting transitions like this.
Hmm.
We in our space in this industry, we're not the company that's going to be involved, doing the Super Bowl or doing these big shows, but I do think there's a dynamic here coming out of this that will open people's eyes to what smaller trucks can do, with what you can do with smaller resources, how you can apply certain technologies. So, in my opinion, what once was a show that may be too big for a Rush Media is no longer too big for a Rush Media. Not to mention that the economics will start to come into play as the revenue pools that are involved in the investment in a sporting event are not going to be at the same levels that they were.
Of
So
course.
those are all exciting things. I think if you're not reinventing yourself during this downtime or during this time that you have no shows to go out and work on, I think you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice. So we're a lot of emphasis on the reinventing of how we do business and making sure that we're prepared.
It's great to hear. And I mean, there's definitely going to be a tectonic shift when we come out the other side on this, and everybody, including Rush Media, is doing what they can right now to rethink their models, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tim, I really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks so much. And please stay safe and stay healthy. And our best thoughts to the entire Rush team.
Great. Thank you.
For more
Appreciate it.
episodes of SVG Sports Tech On Demand, stay tuned to sportsvideo.org and the SVG YouTube channel.